It's crunch time and the final weekend of fantasy baseball. Who are you going to add to put you over the edge to take home that trophy? I got that and more on today's action packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. You can find me on Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time you drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify, or wherever you may listen. And subscribe to us on there as well. You don't want to miss out. Maybe you can't watch us, you don't have time, but at least you can listen on the go. And if you want a little bit more than what we offer on this 30-minute podcast, check us out on Subtext and become a member of the Diamond Club. And it's a wonderful platform. We provide you with waiver wire rankings, which you're going to want to know who to prioritize from this episode. We hit you with prospect call-ups, a whole bunch more, and plus all our off-season stuff. So check us out. Links in the description below. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of the MLB. Get the Booking.com app today. All right. I got a great episode for you. I can't believe we're here. Final must-add episode. Final waiver wire episode. It's kind of crazy that we're here already, but hey, it's time to handle business, time to bring home the W, and then next week starts all of the smack talking, okay? Just think about the next couple days. Let's stream it until we make it and kind of win. This is what this episode's about. Teams aren't going to start playing their starters because you're playing in this week, and, once the playoff seeding is pretty much locked and loaded and set, that's the second that these teams are pretty much like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not playing my players. So, where I think we're going to be okay with Phillies and Dodgers almost to the end, maybe stopped about Sunday. And depending on how a couple of these series go, they're probably not going to start their starters. So let's keep an eye on that. And this episode may be more important to you than you would ever imagine, essentially. So let's get into it. Let's start with Mr. Colton Cowser of the Baltimore Orioles. My guy is about 54% owned, and him being out there in 66% of leagues is pretty key. If he's out there, I'm pretty much going to go out and add him. 46% of leagues. He had 5 runs, 3 bombs, 6 ribs, a stolen base, batting .292 over the last week. Even the last couple of days, Wednesday had a 3-ribby game with a run, a stolen base, batting .500. Tuesday, he hit a home run and was batting for .250. So he's getting it going. Even on the 20th, my guy turned around and had a 2-dinger day and batted about .500. So Colton Cowser is hot, and I want to ride that wave to the end. You don't want to be on the other side of it either, where somebody picks him up and uses him against you. So Colton Cowser, I feel, is a must-add. He's had the potential, he just never really just panned out this year. He may be a next year kind of guy. We'll see. But I like Colton Cowser for this week and hopefully to take home that championship. So add Colton Cowser now. All right, let's talk about Mason Winn of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's about 40% owned, and he's shortstop eligible. So, if a team decides to, sit their shortstop and they happen to be on your team, Mason Winn could be a nice, replacement for you at least. Over the last week, he's had 5 runs, a bomb, 4 ribs, batting about .240, which isn't my favorite. But Mason Winn has upside to steal bases. He can do a little bit of damage. He does get on base. He does get the runs and is in a position to succeed. The team just isn't succeeding. And, that's what's kind of driving down Mason Winn in a hole, but may not be my favorite guy out of all the names I'm going to speak about today. But I will tell you this, if I'm in a pinch, I don't think there's too many shortstops out there that are going to be, going to have the upside that Wynn can have for you. Essentially, the only way I'm probably rolling out any other shortstop is if the matchup is pretty much in Coors Field. Let's see who they're playing. Looks like Mason Winn is going to be playing, San Francisco right now. So, it's not like they're a dangerous team that scares me. I think that Mason Winn should go out there and not have anything to worry about. Essentially, there's no guarantee with any player that are going to go out there and perform. But the reason why we're mentioning him is the likelihood is on our side of adding him and him performing. So I'm going to add Mason Winn, but he's not the guy I'm going to go out and prioritize. Again, sign up for Subtext, and you'll see who I'm prioritizing by the end of the day. But all right, let's move on. Mr. Hunter Goodman. I like him a lot. I almost added him last week to see if I could bring home the championship. Unfortunately, I ran out of, ads. Unfortunately, he plays for the Colorado Rockies. He's about 19% owned. And it looks like he's playing at home against the Dodgers. So Dodgers do have to play, but the Dodgers pitching, anybody is susceptible to Coors Field, and him being at home makes a serious difference. It's the only reason we're talking about him because his last week wasn't really impressive. He's really only had about two ribs and batted about a 125. But the week before that, over the last 2 weeks, he's been pretty killer. 6 runs, 4 bombs, 11 ribs, batting 267. The fact that he's home over the weekend, the fact that he's catcher eligibility, that he has catcher eligibility tells me that I need to start him. Tells me that there's power upside that and that I really need to go and take advantage of just based off of that alone. And he's going to get everyday play because he has multiple positional eligibility, catcher, first, and out. So, I want to go out there. I want to make sure that I'm getting him because, to have the upside like this coming out of my catcher position is pretty hard to come by, honestly. You think about it, what catcher in the league right now is hot right now? There's not many, and none that are in also a favorable ballpark where the ball could just soar out of the park pretty easily. So Hunter Goodman is a solid ad going into the weekend. Somebody that I think we should all be streaming. Again, 40% owned, plays for those Rockies. So Hunter Goodman, I'm adding him. He's on the higher end of my prioritization list. You know what? Let me sneak in this last guy here. Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies, same team. He's going to be home all weekend as well. He's about 9% owned. One of the many reasons I'm talking about him is one, I want to give him a little homage, say thank you for all you've done for us, both as a baseball player and as a fantasy baseball player for us, because Blackmon's been great for years. Unfortunately, the last couple of years just haven't been, Father Time has caught up to him, and he's retiring at the end of the season. But he's definitely worth that play this weekend. 3 runs, 2 bombs, 4 ribs, batting 389 over the last week. And he's going at home. I got to do it. I have to do it. I have to roll him out. It's not even a matter of, hey, you're playing it because you're a little sentimental. No, like straight up, Charlie Blackmon's a great start this weekend. Honestly, Charlie Blackmon can truly be a difference maker if he stays this hot. Let's see over the last couple of days. Literally yesterday, well, actually today as I'm recording, yesterday for you, he has already hit a bomb and has 2 ribs and batting 500. Let's go, Charlie Blackmon. I'm all about this right now. You're producing. Let's go. I mean, even on the 24th, he had a rib batting 667. Yes, on the 25th, batting 500. The 21st, 2 runs, a bomb, 2 ribs, batting 500. And even on the 20th, a run, a bomb, a rib, 250. Charlie Blackmon is hitting the cover off the ball right now. I think we need to be, taking advantage of his production and his hot hand right now. So the fact that he's going to be at home this whole weekend is a serious advantage for us. Add Charlie Blackmon now, and I promise this guy will take you to the promised land. But anyway, guys, coming up next, we got one last bat, and then we're going to move into our arms. Guys that I think we should be streaming all weekend that can possibly put you over the edge to take home that championship. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the first rate and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individuals with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonus, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on a IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosure, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate my change. Gold members is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this last week unfolds, rely on our dynamic content, get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. And guys, you know what? Not only do you want to stick around and try and get in there just for this last weekend, but we have our off-season content coming real soon. You're going to want our rankings going into 2025. Whether it's redraft rankings, dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, prospect rankings. You don't want to miss out. And plus, guys, you're going to enjoy it. Take advantage of our free 2 weeks. The link's in the description below. New members get a free 2 weeks. Check us out. But all right, I want to hop back in. I want to cover this last bat, and I want to get moving and grooving into the arms. Something that, I feel is going to be one of the harder things to do this weekend, especially with guys maybe getting essentially a start skipped or things like that. And I'll talk a little bit more on what the possibilities could look like for that, but we'll get into that real quick. But right now I got this next guy up also hitting the course. You could tell we really like this game, and that's Michael Conforto of the San Francisco Giants. He's 17% owned, and I think it's the perfect time to roll him out. He's been hot of late, and now he's going into Colorado. I apologize, got it mixed up. He's playing St. Louis. Gosh, what is up with me today? But anyway, he's playing St. Louis over the weekend. Still a good matchup. He's been hot of late. 5 runs, 3 bombs, 6 ribs, batting about 280 over the last 2 weeks. 7 runs, 4 bombs, 10 ribs, batting 289. Obviously, last week wasn't as good as this week, but he's still killing it, and I think he needs to be added and ride that hot streak. We look back a little bit. Yesterday had a run batting 333. Day before, got a home run with 3 ribs, batting 200. The day before that, 2 runs, a bomb, and a rib for 400. He's looking good. And as long as he's playing, I think he's going to be all right for this weekend. He's going to be a great outfield replacement for any of the guys that aren't going to be playing this weekend. So, I would be adding him now. 17% owned is a steal. St. Louis really hasn't been able to pitch all that great, even though I'm going to be recommending a pitcher later this weekend. It's kind of like an even peg matchup. I'm not really scared of the bats, and I'm not really scared of the arms. Conforto just poses a threat to actually do some damage and produce for your fantasy team. And same thing with this pitcher that's going to be coming up in a few moments. So, Michael Conforto, I think, is going to be a good add overall for us. And let's just say this. If he continues on this kind of tear, it's going to be fun. So I would be adding Michael Conforto, San Francisco Giants, 17% owned. But let's move on to this next guy here. Let's talk about Nick Martinez, our first pitcher up. Nick Martinez is playing for the Cincinnati Reds, and he's about 50% owned. This last week was pretty nice through 6 innings. A run, no runs. I apologize. No runs, a win, 9 Ks, and a .33 whip, even over the last 2 weeks through 12 innings. 2 wins, 15 Ks, a .75 ERA with a .42 whip. Those starts came against Pittsburgh and Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota hasn't really been that scary as of late, but he's going up against the Cubs. Cubs are a mixed bag, right? So you see what they were doing against Philly the night before, and they put up 10 runs, but then they didn't really put up much the night before, the last night. So you just got to look at it like this: they could drive in runs, but at the same time, will they? And the way Nick Martinez is pitching right now, I kind of want to say he should be able to handle his own. I don't foresee him running into trouble. Obviously, that's a possibility, but they're playing at Chicago. It's not like it's at Great American Hitter Park. One big bonus there. So I kind of want to say let's add him because when he's in the zone, it's just fun. he can seriously do some real, what the hell? There we go. Do some pretty much help you out. I apologize to that, guys. But he can really help you out this weekend and win you a championship. Let's add Nick Martinez again. Let's move on. Again, St. Louis pitcher. Like I mentioned, Andre Valiante, St. Louis Cardinals, 21% owned. Andre has been pitching good over the last week. 7 innings, 4 Ks, a win, 1.29 ERA with a .43 WHIP. I love that he went 7 innings. Definitely going to qualify for the QS. Definitely going to handle that. Even over the last 2 weeks, pitched 14 innings, so that's 2 7-inning starts in a row. 13 Ks through 14 innings, a .64 ERA with a .57 WHIP. Fantastic numbers even over the last month. 29 innings pitched, two wins, 25 Ks, a 3.34 ERA with a 1.31 WHIP. Fantastic. Obviously, WHIP's a little high on that one, but if you saw over the last 2 weeks, he's seemed to have figured that one out for just the time being. These matchups came against Cleveland, which was his last start with the 4 Ks and a 1.29 ERA. And the start before that was Pitt, handled himself real nice. Cincinnati gave him a little bit of a banger, dinged him up a little bit, but it is what it is. And he's a little bit more on the unreliable side, but the way he's pitching over the last 2 weeks, even over the last month, makes me want to roll him out. Like I said earlier when we were talking about Conforto, that matchup doesn't really scare me because, again, I'm not really scared of San Francisco. Michael Conforto's on a heater. Is there a world and a possibility where he can take advantage of Pallante and say, hey, I'm going to light you up today because, he is up and down. We see that just based off his previous stats. But at the same time, there's a world and a way where Pallante just continues this. And, they're both hot and they're both doing their things. And when guys are locked in, it makes for great baseball. So it's going to be a good matchup. I wouldn't add both. But at the same time, desperate people do desperate things. We shall see. I am adding Valiante without a doubt. So, add him now again, 21% owned. He's out there in a good chunk of leagues. Guys, coming up next, we're going to finish out our pitchers. This is going to be a shorter episode today, but I promise we're going to have a whole bunch of great names to finish off this show. And I'll give you a little tease. Yariel Rodriguez is one that we're going to want to know what to start, who they're playing with, and how I'm approaching him. And it's coming up next. Explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn about the other baseball cities. Maybe it's time you take a taste test of your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily, on Booking.com, you can find the stadium to stay that is just right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to your baseball's rival city. That's right, stay can make you a fan of any city, any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Exploring my skills on PrizePicks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 really fast. PrizePicks is incredibly user-friendly. I can make my selections and submit my entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, might as well give you some great tips to get you started off with since we're already betting $5. Opt for Paul Skeens to have higher than 7.5 strikeouts in his next start. Opt for Fernando Tatis Jr. to have higher than 0.5 stolen bases in his next outing. And opt for Pete Alonso to hit a dinger in his next game. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Again, use the code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right. And that was a great time. Let's keep it going. We got 3 more names left. I might be able to sneak in one more too. I might be giving you a bonus name today. We shall see. Let's see what this time looks like as we move forward. So, like I promised, Yariel Rodriguez of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's been good, 11% owned, and even though his last start wasn't so pretty, where he got lit up against Tampa, oddly enough, his last couple starts before that were pretty good. St. Louis handled pretty well. Atlanta handled really nicely. 6 Ks, 1.8 ERA. Handled Minnesota. Got lit up against Boston and Cincy and Chicago. but handled Oakland, Yankees, and then Baltimore. He's been up and down, but I like him. He has good stuff. He's just a little inconsistent. This matchup is coming up against Miami. Miami really doesn't scare me at all. Nobody's really hitting over there. So I'm kind of like okay with rolling him out there. It does come with a risk. Luckily, this matchup is the 28th, which is Saturday. So you don't really need to decide today, but he might be somebody I'm adding and trying to stream out there. I'm not mad at running him out there. Rodriguez is an interesting one when you look at it, right? Like, he can be super effective, and then there's other times where he's just like, oh, why did you do that? So, let's roll him out there. I feel like this is going to be a good start. I kind of want to break down a little bit more of his advanced stats too. I haven't done much of that today, but he has a decent speed fastball, 93.8 miles an hour. He doesn't really give up hard contact, averaging about 88 miles an hour on the dime. I just wish he would create a little bit more ground balls and reduce the hard hit percentage and things like that. But I think that'll come. He's still 27 years old. Pitchers take a little bit more time than bats. He's not past that grace period yet. If anything, he's about to enter his prime year, being that this is his first year in the bigs. He has a nice little arsenal too: four-seamer, slider, sinker, curveball, split finger. He does has a real nice mix of it too. Two pitches, curveball and split finger thrown at like right around 10%, whereas like he really relies on his four-seamer and slider essentially. But then mixes in the other three pitches here and there. That slider seems to be really nasty with a put away of 26.4%. So he does have some good stuff. A few pitches just need to not get hit. Looks like the curveball is the one that really gets hit at a 3.89 batting average. Everything else looks pretty solid. 250 batting average on the four-seamer. Slider has a 218 batting average, and even the split finger a 200 batting average. And that sinker is looking real nice too at a 154. Those last three he throws about 10% of the time. Maybe he needs to start mixing in those a little bit more as well. Without the curveball, maybe we'll see a little bit more out of him. I like the upside of this kid. He's going to be interesting even for next year. He might be like one of those like lottery scratchers that can be somebody that if they have a good spring, can really entice me to want to draft them everywhere. This is a name not just to add this weekend, but not to forget at all, because next year in 2025 he could have some value. That's Yariel Rodriguez of the Toronto Blue Jays. Let's talk about Mr. Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks is 5% owned, funny enough. And you know what? Let's talk about him. Let's get into it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get him up right here. Here we go. Still playing for those Cubs, funny enough. And you know what? He's been so up and down as of late, but I'm still willing to roll him out there. Going up against Cincy, at home at least. Now, yes, Ellie De La Cruz has been pretty dangerous, and it always poses a threat. There's a little bit more of a risk playing that team. At least it's not at, Great American Hitter Park as well. Cubs, there's an opportunity to get the win. He's just a little bit on the more of a risky side. Washington lit him up for 6.75 ERA. Colorado was able to handle pretty well at Colorado. So that's like having a big bet, pretty tough matchup just right there. Handled the Dodgers to an extent of 4.15 ERA through 4. And then Pittsburgh was able to handle, but it seems like everybody's handling Pittsburgh. So very up and down, obviously inflated by the Washington start, but he still comes with a risk, since he's not a rollover, and they're going to be trying to work through some things for next year. So he's more of a guy that we're going to be a little bit more patient on. Again, a Saturday start, so you don't need to decide today, but consider it. He's on a lower priority for me, at least. Dom will probably feel differently, so we shall see. For me, I'm just going to be, if I'm in a pinch, I'm down K's, my ERA is pretty much shot, then yeah, I'm going to roll him out. If I'm in a points league, I'm probably going to avoid him at all costs, just on based off of the volatility. And, the upside isn't there like a Yariel Rodriguez that, can provide a really great game. Whereas Hendricks, it's kind of like up and down. You don't really know. And, when he has a bad game, it's only 4 innings and he's getting about 2 Ks is what I'm seeing here. So, I'm just kind of taking a back seat, and he's just a name that we need to mention because upon a pitcher on your team missing a start, that could be detrimental. So you might need to roll out a guy that's has a start that you can possibly have an endorsement behind, at least a half one, because I'm not giving you a full one. But anyway, let's get to this last guy here, Cutter Crawford of the Boston Red Sox. He's about 70% owned. He's a little bit more on the widely owned side, but Cutter is somebody that needs to be worth mentioning. And reason being is he's been better of late. last outing, against Minnesota, went 7.5 innings, got the win, 7 Ks, a 3.52 ERA with a 104 WHIP, looking good there. Obviously, the Yankees smacked them around a little bit, but Baltimore, he was able to at least not have an atrocious game, and then handled the Mets and even handled Toronto Blue Jays. So, like, he's been up and down all season, and there's a reason why he's being added again, because he's showing signs of what we saw in the beginning of the season. Obviously, not as a consistent rip. I think, it's starting to get to him, the fatigue a little bit. And also, too, I think the league kind of figured him out a little bit as well. But I like Cutter Crawford going into this matchup. I'm really, not really scared of the Tampa Bay Rays on Saturday as well. Rays, even though they're lighting up some teams, they sometimes play up to the talent. I think Cutter Crawford should walk all over them. I'm not really scared of that team whatsoever. So it's a pretty solid matchup, honestly. So Cutter Crawford, I feel, is a good ad going into this weekend. Again, like 70% owned. Obviously not out there for everybody, but I do want to say, like, hey, if he's available, go out and get him. Let's put it that way. But I want to see what do we got here. What could I do for you? I want to get you another game so that we're not leaving on a high point. Pretty much on a low point here. So here's the thing. I got a closer for you. I'm not gonna put the name up because I don't have time to type it in. Make this one quick. We talked about him earlier in the week, and that's Luke Weaver. He's still only 49% owned. He's now the closer for the New York Yankees. He already has a save as of today, so I would put him with 3 saves on the week already. Maybe he can sneak in another save over the weekend. Through 3.5 innings, 4 innings essentially if you add it all up. He has about 9 Ks, so he's really doing all his things. He's doing the thing he can. Hasn't given up a run yet. I'm loving Luke Weaver for this position. Wow, he probably should have been a closer a long time ago. I liked him as a starter. Obviously couldn't pan out, but Luke Weaver as a closer I think is great. It's a great landing spot for him too, being with the Yankees. So it's just overall just a good spot, and a guy I do say add immediately if he's available, because Yankees can get you saves all day long. So add Luke Weaver now. Guys, thank you so much for being with us all season long. This is the last in-season episode we got for you. Next week, we're going to be going into team reviews and covering every single team from worst to first down to the World Series winner. So it's going to be fun. We're going to give you a little bit more of a deep dive, cover some names we really didn't have time to cover over the season, kind of review what that team looked like, what the upside is for next year, and all those wonderful things. So you're not going to want to miss out on that. So stay tuned. Come and join us all off season, because the way you win your league now is starting right now as well. So you want to win your league and then focus on next year right after. And this is all done right here, right now, every single day, 5 days a week with us at Locked On Fantasy Baseball. And guys, if you like us so much, you're going to want to check out our boy over at Locked On MLB, Sully. My guy gives a great coverage of all of regular MLB season, and he's going to give us all great coverage of the playoffs. So check him out, Locked On MLB. And guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, everything you possibly can. And, we truly appreciate all of you. So please, thanks for being with us. Peace.